Architecture shapes our built environment. It is more than a combination of art and design fulfilling a utilitarian purpose. It is a reflection of a society's values and aspirations. At its most powerful, architecture can be transformative, not only creating spaces that inspire, challenge and delight, but can forge a path for society at large and provide a tangible vision of what is possible. Across Australia, architects, urban planners and community leaders are using community-focused design to solve real-world problems and create more sustainable and inclusive environments. Join us as we explore how design can create vibrant and healthy local communities that foster connection and local engagement. Mooloolaba is a coastal suburb of Maroochydore on the Sunshine Coast region in the state of Queensland, Australia. Mooloolaba is a sun-drenched drawcard for tourists and locals alike. Today's episode looks at how the community and local council came together to reimagine Mooloolaba's beloved foreshore in the hopes of creating something special for generations to come.
My name's Jamie Franklin. I am the design manager for the Mooloolaba Master Plan project for Sunshine Coast Council. I'm an urban designer and have been involved with this project from the very inception, starting back in 2012. The vision coming from council and from the community was about developing Mooloolaba to become a world-class beachfront destination. So with the Sunshine Coast developing, from when I arrived in about 2000 at about 220,000 people to a vision of 2040 of over 500,000, the coast has gone through exceptional amount of growth. And it was about providing that Mooloolaba would become that key beachfront tourism destination for the Sunshine Coast Council. So the vision was about setting Mooloolaba to become this tourism hotspot and a multitude of projects which all needed to be part of that vision.
The challenge? Deal with a multitude of planning problems such as mass transit, road and highway upgrades, the redevelopment of Mooloolaba Wharf and a 20-year-old foreshore that the community saw as being run down and a little tired. The goal? Get people back into the Mooloolaba foreshore and strengthen tourism on the Sunshine Coast. Simple, really.
What we heard from the community was that they love the natural landscape. They love the beauty of the bay, the local coastal species. They love the relaxed environment. They didn't want to see that change. That was really important that we deliver that outcome into the future.
And so the Mooloolaba Foreshore Redevelopment Project began. To get the ball rolling, the Sunshine Coast Council needed a master plan, which brought design director Alastair Layton to the project.
Our involvement with Mooloolaba as a foreshore project goes back to 2015, so 7 years now. We were fortunate to be involved with Council from the outset, really addressing the question, what do we do for the future? When we've got a place like Mooloolaba that is incredibly popular and growing as many places are, it needs to balance its function as a place for a community with its environmental characteristics, with its need to perform economically as a destination for the region.
Recently voted as one of the best beaches in the South Pacific, Mooloolaba is beloved by locals for its central location, sweeping coastal views and trendy beachfront eateries.
When we think about Mooloolaba, we think about the beach as a fantastic destination that people love. It's got great characteristics. It's an enduring place. The foreshore here has worked very hard for a long period of time and people love it. So there's a real obligation there to make sure we don't lose some of the special character of the place.
Easier said than done, of course.
Our work on the master plan was not just for the foreshore, but was for Mooloolaba as a whole. So we were thinking about the wharf, about other areas, about the spit, how to enable them to grow responsibly for the future in ways that could accommodate more capacity. When places are popular, they get busy at key times, and that was very much concentrated into the southern portion of the foreshore. for Mooloolaba. So part of the thought process was very much, well, how do we accommodate that growth further on the foreshore and really think about how we can welcome more people in ways that give them new experiences that are still resonating with that love of Mooloolaba that people have.
So the next step? Design and construction. And who better to help oversee such crucial work than a local?
I'm James Birrell. I'm a director of Place Design Group, and I'm a born and bred Sunshine Coast local. We were the landscape architects brought into the project during the design and construction phase. We feel very privileged to be part of a project like this. Mooloolabar's been a special place for tens of thousands of years. It's north facing, overlooking a primeval landscape with dramatic landforms such as Coolum, Majimba and Burringo or Point Cartwright. These dramatic landforms have beautiful and cultural significant stories of the Kabi people. So it's the kind of place that should be and should have access, should be accessible by the public. It should be a gift to the people. So we came into the project at the design construction phase, and that's always a really interesting space to be working in because you're working with a builder, people who now who are actually going to build things, and so you're developing the design with them and with those craftsmen to get a really great outcome. So it's always good to be in that space and not designing in isolation. So that was a really great opportunity to be a part of.
Collaboration is key, and on a project of this size and scale, there are many moving parts, not to mention many different phases.
I'm Steve Guthrie, Director of Bark Design Architects, so we're architects involved in the project.
I'm Lindy Atkin, Co-Director of Bark Design Architects. We've been engaged on the project for 6 years now, going on 7. And the first time was in 2016 when we were engaged to work with ACOM as the landscape architects to look at the foreshore from Alex Bluff all the way down to the Mooloolaba Circle.
So because there's about 11 or so structures, it was really important to actually develop a unique Mooloolaba character for the structures. So as much as we've been designing Sunshine Coast architecture for the last sort of 25 years, we've come to realise that there is no one size fits all for Sunshine Coast, and that each particular locale is very particular. And so it was about searching what is the character of Mooloolaba and how could that be expressed through the architecture.
Architects are often tasked with honouring an intricate balance between tradition and innovation through meticulous design and material selection that aims to capture a location's essence while fostering a harmonious blend of past and future aspirations. It's a commendable pursuit.
I'm a local. When I was born here, there was 80,000 people from Noosa to Bribie Island. It was a small seaside group of communities, and now it's grown into something a lot larger. And I think there's a responsibility being a local and knowing what it was like to try and keep that character and identity going as we're growing as a population. So bringing spaces like this back into the public realm, it's really special for me to be involved in there.
Coming up, the Mooloolaba Foreshore redevelopment goes from planning and design to construction and implementation. Today we are delving into the rejuvenation of the Mooloolaba Foreshore, a project that aimed to upgrade a beloved tourist hotspot whilst maintaining the cherished spirit of the community. And there's no better champion of that local community spirit than the Mayor of the Sunshine Coast himself.
We've got a fantastic location to live, work and play. The Sunshine Coast has enjoyed incredible popularity over the last decade, significant population growth. But that's been on the back of a lot of investment by council into our local economy to ensure that people can not only live here but have a good job, earn a good salary, raise their families in what is one of the fastest growing areas of Australia. Behind me you can see the recent investment made by council into what we call the Northern Parklands here at Mooloolaba, linking Mooloolaba and the Bluff at Alexandra Headland. So that's been a major investment, $16 million investment, of which the state government, through their COVID recovery campaign, contributed around 4.6 million. Catering for tourists is really important. Look, at one point that area was a relatively small caravan park, and clearly that was a great location for the people who regularly used that for holidaying, and indeed had tenure over it almost. It was quite a challenge to convince them that for the greater good we should be opening that up and developing the northern parklands. Now that it's there, I think everybody agrees we made the right decision.
The right decision, but it did have some initial impact. The foreshore was, after all, previously being used for an entirely other usage.
Where we are right now used to be a caravan park, and it's one of the toughest decisions for the council was to actually change this land we're standing on now from a caravan park into public open space. Of course, there are many users of the caravan park which were against that idea, though overall there was an 82% approval rating for the master plan from the community when we took it to them.
Winning over the local community after such a monumental project has been implemented can take time, but the immediate response was very positive.
One of the things that I've noticed, having been previously in council with the Maroochy Shire Council and been involved intimately with the redevelopment of Mooloolaba, it's been almost 25 years since we'd had a major facelift in Mooloolaba, and using an old caravan park and converting that into a new parkland, especially in the northern precinct, has been such a huge positive for the community. The feedback that I've had from the community has just been outstanding.
The Mooloolaba Foreshore Revitalisation project was an outcome of the 2015 master plan conducted by local council. Just how did that master plan take shape?
The foreshore component of the master plan really consists of three main pieces. There's the northern foreshore component, there's the element in the centre which is more of a community meeting space, and then the established southern component of the foreshore that people already know and understand well through the Loo with the View and other established facilities there. The southern area is well loved and it's very busy. It becomes very full. So the question was, how do we accommodate more people more equitably through the whole space? Because there are lots of level changes there which makes it difficult for accessibility. So from a design perspective, how do we create a Mooloolaba place to extend the capacity but also enable more people to come and enjoy this wonderful setting?
And as a public place, it's really also important that it's not only going to physically last for a long time, but it's going to have timelessness, so that it doesn't age or date. The maintenance is a practical consideration, but also the visual appearance of how it looks. We want to make sure that in a couple of decades' time, people are still going to think that it's fresh and new, that it's timeless. It's not something that's going to date.
The way I view this project, looking at it from the master plan perspective, is there is a piece of foreshore here to the north that really didn't feel very public. It really wasn't a public space. We've been able to actually open up access to the north of that space in a way that's enabled people to experience the foreshore in a different way. You can now approach from the headland at the northern end, and there is a wonderful vista now along the whole foreshore to enjoy. That's a tremendous new opportunity for people to really engage with this space in a very different way. So for me, one of the best things is giving a community more space and enjoying the ways in which people are using that.
Planning is one thing. Eventually, it's time to start construction, and the Mooloolaba Foreshore Redevelopment project featured one epic construction challenge.
The Northern Parklands, we commenced the delivery of this project in 2020 and took about a year to deliver, $16 million, and started with the boardwalk you can see behind me here.
The project was a design and construction project with Murphy Builders selected to build both stage 1A and 1B. Where we stand today is on 1A. So the main component of that was this boardwalk from linking Alex Headlands down to the Mooloolaba Foreshore. This was a key element as part of that. Through the tender process, we actually asked the tenderers to provide cost-saving initiatives, value engineering that we may be able to implement through the project. And one of the key components of that was this boardwalk itself and the structure behind it. So originally this was designed mainly with the substructure out of stainless steel, and then through cost-saving initiatives proposed by Murphy Builders, the substructure got changed to a aluminium, marine grade aluminium product. And that came with a few benefits as well through the construction process.
It was definitely through that tender process that we identified the ease of the fabrication of these boardwalk components off-site, using a local contractor to fabricate these units that we see today and then trucking them into site. At the time when the project was, we were seeing the start of a lot of material availability and price escalation on materials. So it was another reason why we went with the aluminium structure and could control it with the local fabricators.
This engineering initiative was spearheaded by Cameron Landreth from Barlow Shelley Consulting Engineers.
So my role as the structural engineer had a lot to do with the boardwalk design, and the installation and the sort of construction phase works as well. It was certainly a challenge, mainly because the area before the boardwalk was installed was essentially sort of loosely vegetated cliff, and it wasn't exactly accessible. So part of our role was working out not only just how to make sure the thing stays up and doesn't fall over when people are using it, which is a traditional role of a structural engineer, but also how do we build the thing in the first place. And we worked really, really closely with Murphy Builders on that, and also the team that fabricated the sections of the boardwalk, which was the jetty specialist down in Bells Creek. One of the reasons we ended up with the project, or what got us into the project in the first place, was that we proposed that the whole boardwalk frame's made out of aluminium. Given where we are right next to the sea, it's a pretty harsh, extreme marine environment. Aluminium does well in terms of corrosion in that area, in these areas, and we are trying to, I suppose, limit how much maintenance needs to be performed by council, as it's their asset ultimately, and they have to maintain it in the long term. One of the particular challenges with the site was making sure that building in enough construction tolerance that when the various pieces were being held in the air by the crane, that there wasn't an issue in terms of alignment, where the connections need to go, how all the bits go together, and having something from the site itself affects us being able to install. So one of the things we created or came up with as a solution was basically the way the columns work. So on this project, one of the unique features is the columns that hold up the boardwalk. They not only slope upwards, and the boardwalk obviously changes height as it goes upwards, but they slope outwards in two other dimensions. So we have a three-dimensional angle that we had to meet, and getting that right in fabrication, then having that match tolerances in construction is near impossible. So what we came up with is, and this is the prototype that the guys at Jetty Specialist gave to me. So we have a sleeve with what's going to have a plate on it, and we can spin that until the plate sits flat against the boardwalk frame, and then sleeve the column inside that, make sure the column's the right length, put a few screws in there to hold it in place, but essentially it all fits snugly together. And what that meant was, out of the 150 odd columns on the site, I think there was only 2 columns that were an overall issue in the construction, and that's just because the sections were a bit too long when we brought them in. So this let us do a really timely, really clever install, kept everyone really, really happy, and it was probably, for me, one of the highlights of having this idea and having it come to fruition and play out exactly as I hoped in my head.
Ingenuity that not only saved time and money, but had other direct benefits and positive flow-on effects.
One of the key benefits to dropping it all in-site and the fabrication off-site was that we weren't held up with the production of the material off-site due to the weather. We did have significant delays with the weather on-site because there was a lot of retaining wall works that needed to happen, and those rains saw quite a few issues on-site with subsidence from the bank that we see. Also, a key factor to on-site was the protection of the environment. We're down here to make use of this beautiful environment that we had, so the last thing we wanted to do was do any damage to there. So another reason why trying to keep everything as clean and tidy down here, and all the major manufacturing off-site.
Coming up, we delve further into the planning and design of the Mooloolaba Foreshore Redevelopment Project and take a closer look at how some of the playground elements were planned and implemented. What's a foreshore without children? And what do children love? Well, a playground, of course. But in modern times, it's not just as simple as adopting a "if you build it, they will come" philosophy. You have to create something special.
We spend a lot of time in the design of the playground specifically, looking at how we could reinterpret the pandanus seed pod into a playground design. So we've designed a tower there, and it was really important for us to have good play value in that tower.
The whole premise of the job was to build a structure that tied into the landscape here. It suited the play groups from very young age up through to teens, so gradually got more challenging as it went. It was able to withstand the weather conditions that we have here, which is very saline here. The structure itself is quite simple, so the actual structural part of it, quite simple. The play design inside of it starts to get quite complex, and then the facade and the aesthetic of it was very complex to build. The choice of materials is also very important. We have, in today's world, children are very restricted to sterile products like plastics and steel and glass, or iPads and what do they call them, PlayStation 4s. So adding materials in such as rope and timber elements is very, very important to give that textural difference to what the kids are touching from a day-to-day basis.
And I bring my children down here all the time. My little 3-year-old, she went up the tower twice. She tried to walk across to the other tower, got stuck. I had to clamber up twice, take her over. By the third time she'd done it, walked across the log into the second tower. And I think for me, as a parent and as a designer, to see a child grow and challenge themselves like that, because it is quite high up, and it was even scaring me going across it. So to see her grow as a person and challenge herself, that's what you want to get out of play. And I think a lot of times, a lot of the playgrounds are too designed down to a lower level. They don't challenge as much. And I think we really nailed it with this one in getting the younger kids challenged.
With structures like these, sometimes we're not trying to build from an engineering perspective to make things overly rigid and overly taut. So a little bit of movement in a structure like this adds excitement and the element of uncertainty. So we also try to add that into the play value. So when the kids are climbing up the log, in the log behind us here, they'll feel a little bit of structure movement, and that is by design. So the kids are feeling that maybe this is a bit shaky. Even the sides of it, the stainless steel mesh that we use to stop the kids from falling out, very transparent, but it's also very flexible. So when the kiddies are walking up and they're balancing on a small little log and they reach out for something solid, well, it's actually not really there. It feels like it's not there, but it is. They can't fall out of it, it's very safe, but it feels like it's not. And that gives a sense of uncertainty and challenging their abilities to overcome those little bits of uncertainty that they wouldn't normally get in everyday life.
Not only does the Mooloolaba Foreshore Playground feature an incredible play formation based on the design of a pandanus pod, it also features a very popular attraction made up of netting and other climbing structures.
Our company was, for this project, was placed here to design this custom three-dimensional tensile engineered net behind us, which is the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. The net comprises 22 metres wide, and it's trying to mimic the sand dunes of Mooloolaba, but also mimic the waves that come in. So when the net's used, it actually free flows consistently, so it's ever changing the free form, and that's done through a specialised tensile engineering process with our key designers. The net itself actually has a play form on top, and underneath is almost below the sea. So underneath we have play experiences with the diachronic panels, sound shakers, hammocks, so all things for all children of all abilities and adults alike to actually play and be a part of it. Our design process is trying to design elements where adults and children can interact, making sure that adults can also have fun with their children,
and vice versa. So this project was a very special project for us to be part of an iconic part of Mooloolaba. The location is sensational, and to actually be able to use and design what we believe is world class and the first of its kind is very special to us as a company to deliver in partnership with Sunshine Coast Council.
It's clear that a lot of planning and design has gone into what can only be viewed as a very successful project. So how do people feel now that the project is complete and the newly redeveloped foreshore at Mooloolaba is currently being used by the community?
It was great to see the reaction of the public when it was all open, because throughout the process, this being Caravan Park originally, obviously there was plenty of people walking past the site from day to day, and they'd give you the stories of how their grandparents had been coming here since they were children, and then seeing the reactions of those people when the place was open, to see that we could do the space justice and give them something that would be open to the whole community. There's a heart-shaped rock in the rock wall up there, up near the end, halfway up the boardwalk. The Rocky contractors, they've done it on another project as well, when they can really, I suppose they really feel that same passion which we've got for a project, and they go the extra mile. They chiseled this heart-shaped rock and then just set it into the stone. And I think, you know, it's those little things, those which reveal itself, those little secrets, which only maybe a few people might know. Yeah, they're exciting, and that's, I think, all part of a design process coming to be realised.
From like a community member and a person who lives in the area, it's really special to see it go from what once was a caravan park which had limited access to the public, to a car park, and then into this like awesome parkland space where people come for picnics and spend, you know, quality family time together and create memories. And there's all sorts of things like weddings and stuff that happens here. So to be involved in being able to deliver something like that to the general public and have such multifaceted outcomes which are generally all positive, it's been really special.
The Mooloolaba State Primary School is just across the road from the parklands, and I was very keen to make sure that the first children that played on the new incredible playgrounds were the students of Mooloolaba, and to actually see them there doing that brought a lot of joy to me, a lot of joy to their parents, and obviously the children themselves. And just seeing how many people have come down here and used the playgrounds during the week and over weekends, school holidays, it's just great to see so many people being able to use the facilities that we've been able to provide for our community, and it's just the money that's been well spent.
I remember this as a teenager. Since I've been 10, I've been coming to Mooloolaba, and so there's a lot of growing up stories here as well, and it's timeless in that respect, that you see people using the Mooloolaba Foreshore in the same way that, you know, we enjoyed it as children, and you know, it's for all ages. It's open to everybody. Accessibility is absolutely paramount, so that everybody gets a chance to experience the beach, experience that lifestyle and the play spaces. It's a real privilege to work on a project like this.
As the sun sets on our exploration of Mooloolaba Foreshore, we bid farewell, grateful for the privilege of witnessing the harmonious fusion of community vision.